Lots of sitting, we start to develop tight hips, tight shoulders. We get into this pattern where we're using our lower back too much. Now the lower back should be able to move for sure, but a lot of the time it's a facilitator to transfer force, right? And we need necessary mobility, especially here. You can do this test with me right now. Use a mirror if you have one, and we're going to see if we can get our arms overhead to ear level with keeping the elbows straight without arching our spine. So a lot of people will get here, and then we gotta open the chest and arch the spine to get that last bit of the way. Now, this is due a lot of the time to tight lats. Tight lats kind of facilitate this pattern of using our lower back too much. So regaining this overhead mobility, you'll be surprised at how much this will improve the rest of your body, right? It can have really good downstream effects as well. Hanging does this naturally. And a lot of people don't understand that the reason hanging is so good is because it can put you into this position with the right intention, and it can start to retrain that pattern that your body is in. Now, if you're someone who isn't naturally in this pattern, you'll see these people actually don't really get as much out of hanging, right? It's usually the people with stiff lats, stiff chest that need to improve this. So for hanging, really simple, simply grabbing the bar, and the main thing that we want to think about is pulling that bottom of the rib cage down. So you can think abs, obliques, whatever does the trick for you, but the bar and gravity is going to do the rest of the work, right? So I put some tension down there, I'm pulling down. Another good cue is to try to breathe into the back of your rib cage, right? If you breathe into the front, that's when the arch happens. Bring it to the back. Now we're getting a little bit more of this kind of hollow shape. And when you get this body position right, you're gonna feel all that stretch here through those lats, through this chest, really opening up there. Cool thing about hanging, it will improve your grip strength, but we don't want grip to be a huge limiting factor in getting our lats stretched, right? So two things that you can do. Number one, use some chalk, liquid chalk if you don't wanna make a mess. Number two is taking an over grip. So I wanna get my knuckles as far over the bar as I can. You're gonna have such a better grip on the bar that your hang times are gonna go up instantly. So you wanna do 2 sets of 60-second hangs. If you can't do the full 60, your grip's starting to give out, set the feet down for the remainder of your time. You wanna get to the point where 60 seconds is easy. Next up, RDL, hamstring and glute flexibility. So let's do this test now. Can we stand, drive the hips back into a hip hinge, keeping the back flat, knees unlocked, but mostly straight? Can we get our fingers to ankle height? This is without rounding the spine, and it's without shrugging the shoulders to get there. If you can't do this, then you may have some stiffness here in that hamstring and glute area. So RDLs, very popular in bodybuilding, can also be a mobility tool if we do full range of motion and put the right intention there. Hips traveling back initiates the movement. We're gonna keep those weights nice and close to our legs. We're gonna maintain that arch in the spine because the weights are trying to break us this way. So we wanna resist that by staying strong through extension, and we're gonna push ourselves to get down to a deep range of motion. We're then gonna hold that for 5 seconds, come back up. What really helps get this spine position right, activate the lat muscles, and then keep tension in the core. That's gonna give you a nice neutral spine to get a good stretch through that backside. So being able to touch your toes is phenomenal, but most of this is coming from me rounding my spine. So if I get into this pattern where I'm using my spine for too much movement and I don't know how to stiffen here and then lengthen through here, then I'm gonna run the risk of having issues around this area. 5 reps with 5 to 10 second pause at this deep position, trying to get deeper each rep. We're gonna do that for 2 sets. So most of what we're doing in daily life is out in front of us, which means we use the chest and the front of the shoulders a lot. But when's the last time that you moved your arms behind you? Stretching the shoulder into extension is gonna help you open the shoulder and reverse some of that sitting that we're doing. So here's the test. You're gonna stand in a nice neutral position, and you're simply going to raise the arm back behind you with the elbow straight. And we don't wanna move the spine, we don't wanna dump the shoulder forward, keep everything nice and straight and just allow movement at the shoulder joint. So if you can get to around 45 degrees, maybe 60 here, you're doing all right. If we're kind of blocked here, we got some work to do. So find yourself a stick. I'm gonna use this PVC pipe, put it behind your body. I'm gonna have palms up as this opens the shoulder into external rotation. And we're gonna work on that test by lifting that stick behind us. Now, a little bit of weight goes a long ways. You don't need much. I'm talking 2.5 to 5 pounds to start here. Just enough to make that back of the shoulder work more to get this extension. So now we're really actively working those muscles that oppose the chest and the front of the shoulder. If you only have access to dumbbells, use some really light ones, maybe those pink ones. Try to keep yourself in this same path going back. That's what the stick does, is it keeps us from doing any weird stuff like this. So just try to make sure that you're staying really straight as you do this. After we finish the 10 reps of actively using the shoulder, we're gonna come down to the ground, enter the crab position. So hands right behind you, fingers facing away or to the side. And then we're simply going to lift those hips up, see if we can get to a right angle at the shoulder. So my hips are driving up. This is allowing us to just pry ourselves a little bit further into shoulder extension than what we can do actively. So 10 reps active and then 10 to 20 seconds in the crab position. Now the test is worked into this drill. So you're gonna need a weight. A kettlebell works really good, but any weight that will pull you into a deeper squat position here. So obviously it's driving my hips down so I can get my hips nice and deep. I also have my heels on this little lip here, which helps as well. But what the weight also does for me is allows me to counterbalance to really straighten my back against it, right? So what you'll find is if you kind of have a stiffer squat, you know, maybe you hinge forward a lot, maybe you round, picking some weight up will actually automatically straighten you out. It might not turn you into a perfectly upright ollie lifter, but you may go from here to here, right? So we use this weight to find this deep, straight position. We then set the weight down, keeping our grip on it until we very gradually release the grip and we try to maintain that upright position, right? We're gonna hold for about 5 seconds and then release, okay? So we're working our upper back, right? That is so used to being passive and folding over at a computer or whenever, and we're using that to keep extension, right? And you're gonna feel it. It's gonna work so much. So we're working this deep squat, getting some good ankle stretching, hip mobility, but we're turning it into a full body thing by integrating that upper back extension. I don't have the best ankle mobility, so I like to start on a little lip, but eventually we wanna get to nice and flat on the ground. And we just wanna keep on trying to fight for that same position. You'll probably see me lose a little bit more on this because my ankles are now playing a bigger role. But it's good to take gradual steps towards getting the heel flat. So you're gonna do 2 sets of 5 reps. Everyone knows hip flexors are where we store a lot of our tightness these days. So couch stretch is kind of mandatory for me. If you're in a gym or you have some stuff around the house, it's really nice to elevate the knee off of the ground for the beginning stages or your first set. This makes it less intense on the hip, and then we work towards the ground over time. Couch stretch, it's easier to get the range of motion if I arch through my lower back. Now, one little trick I like to use here is to put my hands on my thigh, and I use this pressure to create my hollow position, keeping my rib cage down, right? I also like to look down and see some tension in my abs here. This is harder to do if I don't have that hand tension. You will be able to do it eventually, but in the beginning stages, this really helps trying to over-exaggerate the hollowness, especially if you have this tendency to overarch to get that range of motion. Now, the other thing is that we want to feel some tension in our glute muscles here, right? It's harder and harder to get as we get fully bent and upright at the knee and the hip here, but you'll be able to do that too. And over time, we work closer and closer to the ground, and we work closer and closer to becoming upright. Couch stretch is simple. It's not easy. You just got to spend time in this position. 2 sets of 30 to 60 seconds. So as you get a little bit older, you start to realize, oh shoot, maybe I shouldn't lift weights 6 days a week. Maybe my body needs some rest to recover. You can use this routine to still go to the gym, to still keep that habit, but to work on something that you're gonna find a lot of benefit in health-wise, longevity-wise, while still giving your muscles a rest so you can come back and train hard the next day. Which one of these stretches do you need the most work on? Comment below, subscribe to Strength Side, as always.